If you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Under the Master Rule 3 and decided to quit when links come out because of links, then man, I feel sorry for you. Basically, every single one of your problems that you had with Master Rule 3 was answered with Master Rule 4. And while the game did change drastically, it is basically the exact same card game, but with more thought process. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and destroy that subscribe button. But more together, I'm pretty sure you can link in that notification bell once you hit that subscribe button, because we just too strong. The puns are more to come. Without further ado, I present to you why has Yu-Gi-Oh! Gotten better with links. I think what turned a lot of players off from Master Rule 4, the link format, is the biggest change to the extra deck. Monsters from the extra deck can only be special summoned to the extra monster zone, so Fusion, Synchro, Pendulum monsters from the extra deck, and Exceed monsters must be summoned to the extra monster zone. And unless you make a link monster first, no monster can enter the main monster zone from the extra deck. And that's what I really feel that a lot of players have turned off from Master Rule 4 and possibly even quit the game. While I'm here to tell you that special summoning monsters from the extra deck is just as easy as before, decks can now spam link monsters with ease, and most of them have arrows that point down to allow you to special summon other monsters from your extra deck, whether they be more link monsters, synchros, exceeds, or pendulums alike. One of the best decks of the format is a pendulum deck, a deck that was completely neutered by Master Rule 4. I mean, it's just really awesome how these decks are able to compete even with these concepts being around, and Master Rule 4 has definitely made these decks better in some sort. Good players have been finding ways to make extra deck monsters in unconventional ways. Token monsters have been very important nowadays, because link monsters require just monsters most of the time. Some of them say non-tokens, but more often than not, link monsters require just monsters. So you can make monsters into your extra monster zone and then use them for a link summon, because they do fit the requirement to make a link summon. It's kind of funny how link monsters are more user-friendly than ever. Get it? Because they're computer network based. They're like any two monsters make a link. All right, whatever. Another great thing about link format or Master Rule 4 is that boss monsters are ever so more useful than Master Rule 3. Back in Master Rule 3, it was like, why would I even want to play a boss monster in my main deck when I can play better cards to help me assist me in my main deck and then just play all my boss monsters in my extra deck? Well, that isn't really the case in Master Rule 4, seeing that the extra deck does have a limited space due to the extra monster zone. Boss monsters actually have a purpose. Being able to drop your boss monster only means so much more, because it doesn't require you to dedicate an extra monster zone or even a link monster beforehand to summon your monster. Even more importantly, these boss monsters typically have some really good effects to bait out your opponent's boss monster or their link monsters, and then you can start going into your extra deck. Another great thing is that normally when you play boss monsters, it rewards you for playing a specific archetype. Spiral Sleeper being able to special summon just by having 3 Spiral monsters in your graveyard. Judgment Dragon being able to special summon just by having 4 Light Sworn monsters in your graveyard. All of these are ridiculously easy and now even more prevalent than ever, seeing that the extra deck is a little more tighter than use. A third reason why Master Rule 4 is better is because monster placement actually matters. I mean, it requires more critical thinking to be able to summon a monster in a specific zone than to actually just slam down a monster. Before, monsters can be played just about anywhere, and not saying that's a terribly bad thing, but the fact that monster placement does mean things, having your link arrows point to the right position, or being able to summon your monsters in the correct extra monster zone, giving you access to other monster effects, or even forcing you or your opponent to place monsters outside of that link zone, because that's where a specific monster needs to be placed. That requires a lot of thought, which makes the game more competitive and skillful in a sense. People have always complained about Yu-Gi-Oh! Taking no skill. Well, not only did Master Rule 4 present a skill level that we have never seen before, it actually makes us think. Another great thing about it is now, since we have an established monster zones with the field center, you know, every deck needs to have a field center now. Decks can actually play cards that require columns. You guys remember those cards that required cards to have something in the column and nobody really gave a shit about them? Well, it's kind of good now. Decks like Magic Bullet and Weathery don't rely on links, but they still require some type of card column placement and is being enforced by the link format. So now you don't have to worry about, you know, you and your opponent establishing your card column beforehand. I think that that was very healthy to the game and provides another aspect to Yu-Gi-Oh! That could be extremely skillful to play. The last and biggest thing that I think you guys can take away from this video, players that play this game currently and players that don't play this game currently alike, is that decks are receiving more support through links that are actually making them good. Let's face it, Spiral, Madolche, Noble Knight, just to name a few decks, were completely underwhelming in the Master Rule 3 mechanic, but now under Master Rule 4, they're seeming some type of renaissance, with Madolches and Noble Knights getting a link monster, making them a pretty valuable deck now than before. And let's face it, the biggest weakness of two of those three decks, being Madolche and Noble Knight, is that they can only summon one extra deck monster. Well, guess what the game is more predicated on when it comes to those type of decks? Summoning one extra deck monster, and more importantly, these links actually give them access to summon multiple extra deck monsters if they want to. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. If you guys want to see some awesome ass rewards, then go ahead and drop down on the Patreon. Man, I'm telling y'all, if y'all can link or click on that link to link yourselves to the Patreon, y'all be linked up, bro. That's my last pun. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.